strategically decided it was going to be Hyperledger Fabric blockchain for me. So that's a permissioned blockchain.
Hey everyone, I'm Gaurav from Bitcoin Bay, and we have a guest on the show, Edward Johnson. Edward, thank you for being on the show.
Hi Gaurav, how's it going?
Not too bad. So
Hey.
why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing in Toronto, what you're here for Blockhack, tell us a little bit about your story.
Sure. So I'm here as a mentor on Hyperledger. That is an open source blockchain, and I've been pleased to present that to everyone here. And mentoring the different types of people that have been here, great groups. My story, well, it's quite a special story. I've come all the way from England originally, through to Germany, then through to Switzerland, and then on to Toronto. That's how I finally got here. I can say a little bit more about it, but I've been in IT for over 20 years. I've been a CTO, I've been a developer, I've been a business analyst. I've also been a consultant, and I got really involved with blockchain in the last near to the 2008, 2009, 2010, and more seriously into blockchain in 2014.
Cool. And so how did you go from all these different backgrounds in tech to where you are now in the blockchain space? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory from how you've been all over the world and how you landed here?
Yeah, sure. So I started off in the UK. I graduated in chemical engineering. I fell in love with tech, and I never actually did any chemical engineering in the end. So I was an engineer, kind of lost. Started to work in the city of London as a trainee, really as a programmer. Fell in love with that. And when the 1987 crash happened, I decided with my girlfriend to move to Germany. It was crazy because we both got jobs on day one, and from there it was a statistics company. Started to work with companies like IBM, Oracle, and so on, and learned German.
Wow.
Moved on to Switzerland in the late 90s, and started to work for an investment bank on the IT side as support for equity traders, which was brilliant. From there, I always seem to be the go-to guy in tech teams, so really heavy tech teams, Unix, networking, and so on, but the guy who would link with the business people within those teams. So that really helped me to speak the language of business as well as speak the language of tech. So that was a real advantage for me. Through Switzerland, I actually worked with the banking industry, got quite a bit of experience, moved up slowly, and then I moved out to a startup in Switzerland and experienced the dot-com boom and bust in a startup.
Wow.
After that, I moved over to a firm called AIG, who had a private bank. Some of you may know AIG. And I rose through the management and eventually became the CTO there at that bank.
It's very impressive.
Yeah. So,
Toronto. After being all of these places, what brought you to Toronto?
Toronto, so my wife and my son, together as a small family, we had been in Switzerland for something like 15, 16 years. And Switzerland's a great place, really, really strong on the tech, good people, great environment, but we just had the feeling that we weren't going to be staying there. So we decided to leave, even though we both have jobs and everything. And we drew up a huge spreadsheet of where we would like to live in the world, and we filled up this spreadsheet with lots of criteria. And we started to travel around the world, for short periods, different cities, to find out where would be the best place for us. We went to Asia, we went to the US, to various parts. We didn't yet hit Canada, but we also went to other parts of Europe and so on. And it really helped us to, see the world in another light. Finally, one day, my wife said to me, "Hey, there's a place called Toronto in Canada. I'm French, you're English. Why don't you check it out?" So I came for 2 weeks to Toronto. I picked the wrong time of year. It was November, really cold, but I made myself 10 meetings, came over and hung out in the city, spoke to some business people as well as some tech people, and I found that I really found this is the place for us. Totally diverse, very positive. People are pretty young and ready to try something new and build the city. And I said to my wife, this is where we need to be.
And so how did you get involved in the amazing Bitcoin and blockchain community in Toronto? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So when I got here, I did have a job lined up, but that actually fell through a month after I arrived. I never actually worked a day. So after that and a few different interviews and a few different situations, I decided it would be really cool to be a consultant here and follow up with all the things that are happening. And I looked around at lots of new technology and technology areas, and I thought, and I really could see that blockchain could be something for the future, and I decided to be a specialist in that area, especially concerning banking or bigger firms. The thing is, when I did believe that it could make a difference, but I tried to find people who were involved in the space. So as usual, you go on the internet, you look up, you put in blockchain, Bitcoin, and I heard of a group called Bitcoin Bay.
Oh.
So I said, okay, that was 2014. Who are these people? Let's go to their meetup. I went to this place, a pub downtown. I got there, and the ads were big, but I got there were 4 people, and should I name them? I couldn't name them anyway. These people were there. I just went. We had a pretty good chat. 4 people, and that was the start of Bitcoin Bay, or near the start. A couple of them seemed to be crazy in terms of what they thought about the price of Bitcoin. But I bought some of my first Bitcoin with them and carried on going to the meetings, and it spun from there.
And so you've been around from the early days, so there's things like, you mentioned you bought your first Bitcoin at the Decentral office at 64 Spadina?
Yeah. So around that time, I was looking for somewhere to buy some Bitcoin. And I found the Decentral office, that was where Anthony had his place, and they had a Bitcoin ATM.
Oh, wow.
So I went in there and I tried to use this Bitcoin ATM, the usual ID process and everything with your phone and so on, and the machine wasn't working properly. So when I turned around to the people who were there, they were just working in their open plan office. This guy came over to me and he said, "Hey, is that thing working?" And I gave it a tap and he said, "Oh, it's all right." And it was actually Anthony Diorio at the time. So, he was with his people, but he was very much involved with everyone else. So yeah, that's where I bought my first Bitcoin. And then, of course, at the Bitcoin Bay meetings, I bought some more from Jerry.
Oh, nice.
Funny enough, with Jerry, at the second meeting that I went to with Jerry, where we were in another pub, and I think there were like 5 people there. Jerry, everyone had a couple of drinks, and Jerry was saying, "Hey, the Bitcoin price is going to hit 10,000," and he was so happy. And we always said, "You're crazy. There's no way it's going to get there, and certainly not soon."
Right.
The future was different.
Right. And so, how have you seen the space evolve from those days to what it is now?
Yeah, I've seen the space. What's interesting is you can see a barometer of people going to meetings. You see more and more developers building up into the space. The meetings get larger and larger and larger. I remember there was a meeting of like 400 people with people going out of the door, waiting at the door. So as the prices were going up and more ICOs were building up, more people were getting involved in the space, and the diversity of the people and the ideas of what was happening was pretty cool as well. So you had people with ideas from all around the world, anything to go on a blockchain, and I was in the middle of that because with my experience as a CTO in the banking industry and pretty wide thinker, I could see that there was definitely potential, and it was still growing, but there were a lot of development people and not so many people who would then follow through afterwards. But the money was coming in, so it was a nice situation, very positive.
So why don't you tell me what you're up to these days in the blockchain space, what you're focusing on?
Okay, yeah, I'm focused really. I strategically decided it was going to be Hyperledger Fabric blockchain for me. So that's a permissioned blockchain as opposed to the Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the new other stuff, which is public blockchains. Because I believe that in the longer term, business blockchains, like we do today, we do business, we're going to have business blockchains, and those are going to be really valuable. They'll still need good consulting, but the main thing will be about making money or saving money or having more efficient processes using blockchains, and that's where I see my value add, and that's why I'm strategically focused there. So I consult. I've done a bit of education work, but I'm going to continue building that, take on a couple of people, and work with companies.
So you were mentoring this weekend at Blockhack and Hyperledger and Fabric and the different teams. What was the most interesting thing you saw this weekend?
I think that there were three things that really made me think, wow, this is good. One of the prize winners, it wasn't the largest prize, but one of the things that was most striking for me was a group of guys, I think they were 16 or 17 years old, and they decided to make a Wi-Fi, a kind of public Wi-Fi lookup based on a blockchain underneath, and it was a really clever solution. But what I liked is it came out of necessity, because the guys said they love to travel, and they have really cheap phone plans, and they just need to find a way of getting more and more Wi-Fi kind of crowdsourced around so they can use it for practically nothing. The best way to do that is by having blockchains with micropayments running. And they thought of this and they built something like that in this 24 to 48 hours. And I thought, wow, that's built out of necessity. I was really impressed with that.
Wow, Edward, you shared a lot of great information today. So if our viewers want to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Sure, of course, I am definitely on LinkedIn. I'm also on the web. You can definitely get me at ikiniq.com. I'll spell that. That's ikinique.com. That's my site. That's my company, and you can catch me there.
Thanks, Edward, for being on XCOG.
Hey, thanks a lot, Gaurav. It was a pleasure.
Thanks.